So we got the new master cylinder in, and you can see it's identical to the old one. There's just a few little differences, but the hole size is the same. There's two different hole sizes. Now, this is the one straight off the car. This is from Honda. And if you go to the dealership, they want about $300 for this part. This one we were able to find online for about $35, including shipping, which is great. I mean, the price difference there is amazing. So this is a really good deal. So we'll bench bleed the first one just to verify that it's bad. Now we can go ahead and put these tubes on here. Put the second one on. And then we'll do the bench bleeding in this half cut off spackle bucket just so we don't make a mess on the table. Now with both of these in here, we don't want them to come flying out whenever we're doing the test. So what I'm going to do is take a clamp and just clamp them in like that. There's still plenty of room for the fluid to get through. Now we can go ahead and fill this with fluid and start pumping. Always want to double check the lid of what fluid your car takes. This says only .3 or .4. So make sure the fluids you're putting in are either .3 or .4. We have .3, that's the most common. Now we'll pour in some .3. Now we can go ahead and start pumping. And you can see it starting to flow through, and you want to make sure we get all the air bubbles out. So just keep pumping until all the air bubbles are gone. Now whenever we pump it, it's starting to go all the way through a little bit, but it's not near as strong as the back one. So now we'll start bleeding this one, just to make sure this one works as well. Now we have this one all ready to bleed. This one is a straight fitting though, it's not the same, but it's okay. As long as it seals, it'll work fine. Now we can go ahead and fill this one up with fluid and see if we can get it all bled out of air. So now we can go ahead and fill this one up with some of the brake fluid. And it doesn't make too much of a mess as long as there's no leak in your master cylinder. And then just go ahead and pump this. And this one is definitely stiffer to push, but feels like it's new, just work it in. Whenever you're bleeding this, it's important to move it back and forth to get all the air bubbles moving. But a good way to get rid of them I've found just so far is once you pump it, if you hold it at the end and then bring it back and let the air bubbles come up to the top and then push it again, it'll push those air bubbles into the reservoir, and then some of the other ones then will come up. And then just keep doing that until all of the air bubbles are through. You can see there's still just a little bit of air in there, so we're just pumping it slowly until we get all of that out, and then we'll be good. You can see right there, there's two bubbles we're trying to work out. Doesn't seem like they want to get out. Even when you pump it, they seem to return. Oh, looks like we only got one returning this time. Looks like we got one of them. That's good. So you want to go slow whenever you're pumping this, because if you pump it too fast, it seems like it likes to introduce air into the system. And whenever you're pumping this over and over again, sometimes it can really start hurting your hand. A good way to keep it from doing that, or at least make it a little bit better, is with a old cap. Actually, the cap from the brake fluid bottle, and that just distributes the force and makes it a lot more comfortable, but it still is not the most pleasant experience. So we've probably been pushing this in every direction for another 10 or 15 minutes, and as you can see, there's no air in the system, and we're ready to go ahead and put this on the car. Now we can go ahead and take the clamp off these tubes. Careful not to spill it everywhere like I just did. And we'll drain the brake fluid. Now we'll go ahead and take these out. And you don't have to worry about all the fluid draining through or a bunch of air getting in, because there's a one-way valve here. So now we can take a rope and dip it down into the booster just to make sure that there's no brake fluid down in there, because if there is, brake fluid is a very corrosive liquid and it would deteriorate the seals. But it seems like we're good. Everything is dry, just what we want, so we don't need to do anything with the booster. Now we're going to go ahead and put this into place. Right there, it slides in. Now let's go ahead and push it all over those bolts, and we can get those brake lines started to go in. Just put them in by hand first. Now let's put on the 2 bolts that hold it on, and just careful not to drop them. It's real easy to do that. And now for the second bottom bolt. So these bolts can be pretty hard to reach by hand, so this flex joint here really helps to get in there and tighten them on by hand, and then once we're ready we can get the ratchet and really tighten them down. And then once you get them tight enough by hand, you can put them on the rest of the way and tighten them up with the ratchet, and this swivel attachment helps so much. Now with a 14mm, we're going to go ahead and tighten up the brake lines here and get them nice and snug so they won't leak. Now that this is all attached in, the lines are tightened down, we can go ahead and put the filter in and then put more brake fluid in and start pumping the pedal. Alright, now let's go ahead and pump the pedal and see if it builds pressure. So we're going to be bleeding the brakes on this 2005 Honda Pilot. We know that there's air in the system because all the fluid from the master cylinder drained out. We left one of the bleeder screws open and all the fluid came out, so we know that there's air in all 4 of the brake lines. So there's actually an order to bleed the wheels, or bleed the brakes. It starts with the driver's side front, then the passenger side front, then the passenger side rear, and then the driver's side rear. So it's kind of like a C shape, starting at the driver's side wheel and goes around the car and ends in that wheel. So make sure you pick up lots of brake fluid before you start this job. So before you start, make sure you put as much as you can into the reservoir just to top everything off. So to start, we're going to be using this one-man bleeding system, which is this bottle that has a tube that goes all the way down to the bottom of the bottle. So when the brake fluid reaches the bottom, it traps all the air and it won't come back in. And then we'll attach the other end of the hose to the bleeder screw, and then you can pump the brake and it'll flow through into the bottle. Go ahead and put a wrench on the bleeder screw, and then we can put the end of the hose on the bleeder screw as well. So it is pretty tight on there, so I'm able to just take another wrench, get more leverage, and then it should break right loose. There we go. With the one-man bleeder system, we're able to leave the valve open and just pump the brake. So now we're pumping the brake, and with this clear hose, you're able to see if there's any air in the system, and just keep pumping the brake until the bottle fills up, and that's good. And now we'll dump the bottle and do it again until we have all the air out. Now that the bottle's all full, I'll unscrew it and then dump it into a container that we have. Whenever you dump the fluid out, it's always a good idea to just leave a little bit of fluid in the bottom to cover the hose so that air will stay trapped. Before we move on to the other wheel, we're going to do the 2-man method for bleeding. So with the valve closed, we're gonna go ahead and pump up the brakes.
Okay.
So now,
there's pressure I'm holding.
Now that we're holding the pressure, the pedal is all the way to the floor, we're going to release the valve, loosen it, and we should see all the fluid start flowing. And now, with the pedal still held, we're going to tighten it back up, and now you can release the pedal.
Okay, release.
So now we'll repeat this step because we did see a little bit of air come out, so we're going to keep doing that until all the air is gone. So go ahead and pump up the brake.
Okay, pumping and holding now.
Okay, now I'll loosen the valve. Saw a little bit more air there. I'll put that back up, and then I'll go ahead and tighten up the bleeder screw. Okay, you can let off the brake. Okay, go ahead and pump the brakes.
Okay, pumping. And holding.
Okay, I'll loosen the bleeder screw. Okay, and I'll tighten it. Okay, you can go ahead and take your foot off.
Okay, my foot's off.
So now we'll do it one more time, or at least until all the air is out. So go ahead and pump the brakes.
Okay, pumping. And holding.
Okay, release the bleeder screw, and now I'll tighten it back up. Okay, you can take your foot off the brake.
Okay, foot's off the brake.
Okay, go ahead and pump the brakes.
Pumping. And holding.
Okay, now I'll loosen the bleeder screw. You can see there's just a very minuscule amount of air in there. Now I'll tighten it up. Okay, you can release.
Okay, release.
So we got all the air out, and it's much better now. And you can see I did knock the fluid container over. Now there's like brake fluid everywhere. It's kind of a pain now. So it took us about 30 times on that wheel, but the entire time you're doing this, just always watch and always be topping off the reservoir, because if this gets too low, you're gonna have to redo everything. So this is wheel number 2, which is the passenger side front. And this is going to be the one-man bleeder system just to get a majority of the air out. So I'm going to just loosen the bleeder screw and then go ahead and pump the brakes. And now we'll just pump the brakes a few times and just let the fluid run through. So when we loosen the bleeder screw, you can go ahead and pump the brake. We're able to keep pumping the brake for a long time, and you can see all that air is just coming out of here, and that is a really good sign. I think that means we're getting a lot of the air out, and this line was just full of air. And we can just leave it open and keep pumping. And then once we get the majority of the air out, then we can do the 2-man bleeder system. So now we'll keep doing the 1-man method, and go ahead and pump. And we'll just keep pumping until we get all that air out. So we've got most of the air out with the 1-man system, and now we can switch to the 2-man. Now what some people will do is they'll just do the 1-man system and bleed all the air out that way. But I like to do the 2-man system because I get the confidence to know that the bleeder screw isn't failing and letting air in, and I know I'll get all the air out. So there definitely was a lot of air in this one, but we just got it all out. And in the front, we used probably about a bottle and a half of brake fluid. Now let's move on to the rear. Now we're here on the passenger rear, and I have a little bit more room here. I'm not under the car. I'm actually able to sit here, and then I have this sitting here, so we'll be able to just bleed the brakes like this. Now we have everything down on the ground, and we can go ahead and take it for a test drive and see how well it works. Okay, so now it seems like it stops well. The brakes seem to be functioning properly, and I'm happy with how this turned out. So after further review, we've decided the master cylinder is not the problem. The bench bleeding process still is the same, that still applies. But what we think the problem was there's a brake line in the back that kind of broke a hole in it. We lost all the fluid, so this all drained out. And we think that introduced air into all 4 wheels. And then when we filled it up and tried pumping the brake, the air in the system kept us from building pressure. So we thought it was the master cylinder. We replaced it, and we pumped the brake, and the same thing was happening. We didn't get a pedal until we actually bled the wheels. Then we started getting pedal, and then we found the leak. So we think the leak was the main problem, but the process of bench bleeding and installing the master cylinder stays the same. So to isolate the problem, what we could have done is taken bolts like this, except a little shorter and maybe made of brass. And while the master cylinder is still on the car, with the brake lines still connected, we could have taken out the brake lines, threaded the bolts in tight, and then pump the brake. And if we built pressure, we knew the master cylinder would be good. And if it still doesn't build pressure, that means the master cylinder is bad. So I really appreciate your time, and if you guys found this video useful, then don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.